What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? BizzyDad here. You there checking out this video, which is a deck review of the red starter deck for the Lapis cluster, Rage of Rlyeh, and it is with our ruler Lunya, the Wolf Girl, right here. I will kick off my deck videos as always with saying hello to the newest subscribers, and they are rolling in at the bottom. Once again, another huge week of new subscribers, and it really is just amazing to see the notifications pop up. New subscriber, new subscriber, new subscriber. So I love it. Thank you guys so much for subbing. So welcome to all the newest subscribers, to all our current and longtime subscribers who've been there from the beginning. Thank you guys as well. This is the reason why I keep going with making the videos and putting up new stuff and content and feeling myself opening boxes and packs. And it seems so silly, but when I'm doing it, but putting it up and everyone likes it with the discussions and the comments and the subs. So I really do appreciate it. And I'm glad everyone's having fun with it as well. So just before we get into it, there is no deck build this week, so nobody panic. I'm getting used to the new cards, and I want to put some new decks together with the Frozen Casket cards and some of the starter deck cards to make some fun stuff for you guys. So don't worry, it is coming. I'm just in the lab as we speak, putting it together. But I wanted to do a review of the red starter deck, which I bought the day after I got my Frozen Casket box. I went down to my local and had enough store credit to pick one up, so that was good. And I figured that the red one would be the best one to go. I didn't really get enough vampire support in my Frozen Casket box to get the dark deck, but that is next. And funny, speaking of dark, when you get a starter deck, you do get the deck, you get the dice, and you get 3 booster packs from Frozen Casket. So I was going through them, and I was lucky enough to get a couple of dual stone. I got a dual stone and a super rare, and in that last pack in the starter deck, wouldn't you know who was in there but Yogg? So pumped to pull him out of a starter deck booster pack. That was really cool. So here he is. I was able to pull him, and it really was amazing to see him at the back. Just kind of fitting that he was in the Chtulhus starter deck. So fear not. Here he is. I got him. I still need to get Mars and Zero out of the new set. Those are really expensive right now on the sites, but I like to pull them or trade for them. We'll see how that goes, but really just wanted to throw that out there and let everyone know that Yogg is here, and I am working on something fun for him. So stay tuned for that. So let's get into the deck review. Here is our ruler, Lunya, the Wolf Girl, and she is really good. There is the little wolf on the side there, just staring at you, making sure you don't do anything. If so, he's going to take care of you. But a judgment of 4, 2 red and 2 other. And there you see the energize. So if you go second, you get a coin or a token or just a little dice that just lets you produce 1 red will at any time. And it does come in handy. A couple of games that I did play with this, starter deck versus starter deck, which is kind of cool. It did come in handy going second and getting the energize. But her continuous ability, which is really strong, I've said this was strong from the get-go, is whenever a resonator you control attacks, this card deals 100 damage to target resonator. So whenever you have a resonator on the board that swings, Lunya's card deals 100 damage to any target resonator. And this has so many great applications, some that seem pretty obvious and others that are just kind of more complex or advanced play. But again, that is just situational. So we'll get into that. But let's pay the 4 to flip her over. And while I'm flipping her over, you can get a sneak preview of just looking right on the map, because it is Nyarlathotep, the true false legend, a 1200-800 human Cthulhu J resonator with swiftness. So just she's coming in right out the gate, and she's going to be able to swing for that 1200, and that is pretty strong. Now with the limit of 2, you're going to see with the Chtulhus, at least so far with just the Chtulhus, they'll have this ability or this mechanic called limit. She comes in with the limit of 2. And basically, whenever you block or attack, you remove a limit counter from it. And depending on the Chtulhu and depending on the condition, once the limit counter hits 0, something happens. So let's read hers. It says that a limit of 2, this card enters your field with 2 limit counters on it. Whenever this card attacks or blocks, remove a limit counter from it. So basically just what I said. When this card enters your field, it deals 800 damage to target resonators. So really makes her even stronger, the fact that she does have swiftness and can swing for 1200 right away. But before that, she's going to come in and blast somebody for 800 right off the bat. So she is really strong. At the end of turn, if there are no limit counters on this card, put it into your ruler area as a ruler. So there it is. That's what happens. If Nyarlathotep, I just call her Naya for short, if her limit counters get to 0 at the end of turn, not your turn, just any turn. So if she blocks and gets to 0 at the end of that turn, even if it's your opponent's, you have to flip her back over into your ruler area as a ruler. So there's no penalty for it, not like Yogg. When Yogg hits 0, it flips back to a ruler and you lose 500 life. She just flips back into your ruler area as a ruler. And maybe you can manipulate this to have it hit 0 at the end of your opponent's turn, because then it flips back to a ruler on your side goes to your turn, and maybe you could judge again, flip her back over. She deals 800 to a target resonator. She has swiftness for 1200, could swing again, and she gets 2 brand new limit counters on her. So she is really strong on both sides, whether it's ruler or J ruler side, because even when she flips back over, even if she dies and has to flip back to the Lunya side, the wolf girl side, she's always going to have that ability to deal 100 damage every time a resonator attacks. So I really like her, and I think that she is open to so many different support cards to build a deck around her. It doesn't necessarily have to be Chtulhus, because on her ruler side, she's always dealing 100 damage to a resonator. And on this side, she has swiftness and she has the big hits and the swings. So she's not Cthulhu dependent, which I like. When you get to the original Nyarlathotep ruler back in the Grim cluster, that J ruler was dependent on the strength of all other Cthulhus, and we don't have to get into that. That's an older card, so they're both good, but I like this one because she's very independent. She doesn't need to have the Cthulhus around her. It helps, but just the fact that she can work in and out with so many different cards is really good and really strong. So when you get the deck, half the deck is foil and half the deck is non-foil. And they just come with the basic Firestones. I just wanted to show you them right here. I'm not going to put out all 10, but 5 are foil, 5 are non-foil. And these are the same Firestones that are in the Frozen Casket set. So no exclusive stones for the starter decks. It's just the same as you get in the regular decks. So let's get into Resonators. And first up is the Empress of Rlyeh, which is a 1-drop 500/400 Cthulhu with swiftness, but there's a catch. This card cannot attack your opponent. So it could come out on your turn 1, but it's not going to be able to attack your opponent. So that's a little disappointing, but it's okay. This is kind of more of if you go second and you go up against somebody who does have a first turn play that has swiftness, such as a Flame Sprite or anything else that could come and hit you right away. On your first turn, you could drop this with swiftness of its own and then attack and kill your opponent's Resonator. Just kind of a good way to catch up a little bit or keep the playing field level while trying to build up some presence of your own. So it does have a purpose. I like that. And just, again, 1-drop, it's cheap. I mean, it's as cheap as it could get. So it has its uses, but it's not optimal if you go first or you're kind of ahead in stones. But, it's not bad. Then we have 4 copies of Gentle Goat. The goat has its own side purpose, as we'll see in a little bit, but a 1-drop 300/300 goat resonator. And this card will gain +2/+2 as long as you control a Cthulhu J resonator. So the Gentle Goat does go hand in hand with another card in this deck, of course, but at the same time, it's also linked to the other Cthulhus. So like the Emissary. The Emissary is a Cthulhu. So if you have both of these on the field, the goat is going to go to 5/5 because the Emissary is a Cthulhu. And the goat also has another use, which we'll get into later on. So here is 4 copies of Lunya's Best Friend. And just to reiterate, there are 10 separate cards in this deck, and you get 4 copies of each of them. So that's your 40-card deck. There's not going to be 3 copies of this, 2 copies of this. You get 4 copies of every card. So Lunya's Best Friend is a 2-drop, 1 red and 1 other. It's a Wolf Resonator, 600/600. And when this card enters your field, target J Resonator gains +200 attack until end of turn. So, I mean, it's not bad. And for the stats, a 2-drop 600/600 is not bad. And, you know, it's just a decent card. I haven't found it completely necessary for this card to be in the deck, but again, this is just a starter deck, so it's meant to be switched in and out, and it's basically meant to get you started. So really just not a horrible card. I got 4 copies of Phaley the Charlatan, so a 3-drop human Charlatan resonator. Now, when I first saw that, I thought it said human/Cthulhu, but it did not. It said Charlatan. An 800/800, and that's it. So that's all she is. She's straight up 8/8 for 3. Not bad. I mean, it's pretty good. Pretty good stats. You see some 4-drops that are 800/800, but they usually come with an ability. So the fact that she has no abilities on her own, getting 800/800 out of her for 3 is not bad. And my favorite card in this deck is Hastur Chasing the Goat, a 3-drop 900/900 human/Cthulhu resonator with a lot of text on her. So let's get into it. She does get a limit of 2, just like the other Cthulhus. This card will gain swiftness as long as your ruler is Lunya or Nyarlathotep. So if you're running this ruler, it makes absolute sense to run Hastur as well, because she takes advantage of having her. Whenever this card attacks or blocks, it deals 400 damage to target resonator. So if you have Lunya and you have Hastur, as soon as Hastur comes on the board, she's going to have swiftness. And when she attacks or blocks, she's going to deal 400 damage to a target resonator. Now, don't forget, if Lunya is on her ruler side, whenever a resonator attacks, Lunya deals 100 damage. So effectively, Hastur is going to be swinging when she attacks. She's going to deal 400 damage to a target resonator. And because one of your resonator attacks, Lunya, that's upside down, Lunya deals 100 damage to a target resonator as well. So if your opponent has a 5/5 on the field, you could put Hastur in, attack with the swiftness, deal 400 to the 5/5. And because Hastur is attacking, Lunya will deal another 100 to that 5/5. You can wipe that resonator right off the board and then send the attack straight to your opponent or somebody else. So that is really strong. Hastur is amazing. And we saw how the Charlatan, the Phaley the Charlatan, is also a 3-drop with 8/8, nothing else. Here's Hastur at a 3-drop with 9/9 and all these abilities. Hastur is really good. And at the end of turn, if there are no limit counters on this card, return it to its owner's hand. So she doesn't get destroyed. She doesn't ping you for any life. She doesn't penalize you in any other way except that she comes back to your hand, which is great to me because I'm just going to put her back out on the field the next turn and do it all over again. Especially if you can get 2 Hasturs in your hand, that is really strong. You could be dealing a lot of damage with swiftness and then combining it with Lunya dealing out the damage too. Hastur is an amazing card. The big resonator in here is McGrath the Shepherd, a 12/12, 5-drop, 2 red and 3 other. and another human Cthulhu with a limit of only 1. So when this card enters your field, or whenever it attacks, you could search your deck for a card named Gentle Goat. So that's the one we saw before. Here is the Gentle Goat. Looks like she's holding baby Gentle Goats in her hand. She's loving all the goats. And you get to search the Gentle Goat and put it right into your field. Then shuffle your main deck. So she comes out, the 12-12. She gets the 1 limit. You get to go find the goat and put it into your field. Because McGrath is a Cthulhu, the goat immediately goes to 5-5. Excuse me. If you banish a goat, you put 2 limit counters on this card. So she only comes out with 1 limit, which means she gets 1 shot, whether it is attacking or blocking. And then her limit goes to 0. However, if you banish one of the goats, you get to throw 2 limit counters on her right away. So you can essentially start it all off with 3 because you go get the goat and put it into your field. If you decide to just banish the goat instantly, then you could put her, you can add 2 limit counters to McGrath and she goes to 3. So she is strong at 12-12, and she gets to get the goat when she comes in and also when she attacks, which is really good too. But keep in mind, there are only 4 goats in this deck, and you can't have any more. And I touched on this on the spoiler video. It's not like the Croco Shark where you can put 1,000,000 copies in your deck. You're only going to get 4 goats. And if you're not running any way to shuffle your graveyard back into your hand like a Horn of Sacred Beast, once you use up these goats, that's it. So McGrath is great, but you could see how her appeal is very short-lasting, especially if you burn through the goats too quickly, or if your opponent kills the goat before you can banish it. So she's strong, but she has weaknesses, and I think the cost is really high for 5. What Hastur could do for 3 is way better, I think. And like I said, McGrath is good as long as the goats are in your deck. If they're in your hand or in the graveyard, they're no good. She can't go get them. So be careful with this card. I think this card needs some play testing and practicing to get used to it. So we're going to go into our spells and additions. And the first one is Charlatans Tricks. It's a 1-drop chance. You can only do this on your turn. And you search your deck for a card named as target resonator or addition you control. Reveal it and put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. But if you control Rlyeh the Charlatan, you may put it into your field instead. And this, to me, is really where Rlyeh shines. Because if you have her on the field and you play Charlatan's Tricks, it lets you go get a target resonator or addition that you already control, and you get to put it right into the field. So it's a great combo, but it's pretty dependent on each other. And also you need to control. You can't just go get any resonator you want. So let's say we have Rlyeh on the board and we also have a Hastur. So now it comes to our turn and we're going to play Charlatan's Tricks. Now we get to search for a resonator or addition we already control. So we already control Rlyeh and we already control Hastur. So to me, I would go get another Hastur. So we search our deck for the Hastur and reveal it. But since we control Rlyeh, we don't have to put it into our hands. We could put it right onto the field instead. And that's really strong, especially with bigger cost resonators. Even McGrath would be good here because you go get to find another goat. But we just touched on that, and I think Hastur is way stronger. And that is also just with the cards in this deck. If you think about the other big cards that you can find in the set, it really becomes interesting when you're plugging and playing. Just picture somebody like Azathoth, the big dark Cthulhu who cost 8. Now, he's really tough to get on the field. But if he was there and you had your Rlyeh and played this, now you can get another Azathoth and put him right on the field. Now, that is really big dreaming. That'd be great. But you could see that it is good if you can get them together, but it is also pretty tough, so be careful with that. All right, guys, here's Lightning Strike. This is Thunder, a 1-drop quick cast. You can do it at any time. You either deal 500 damage to a target J resonator or 500 damage to your opponent. Just a must-have in your red deck, just like Thunder was a must-have. Lightning Strike is a must-have as well. There's 4 copies of Rlyeh, World of No Lies. This is an edition for 2, 1 red and 1 other. And when this card enters your field, put a limit counter on each J resonator you control with limit. So this really focuses on the Chtulhus. When it comes in, all your Chtulhus get an extra limit counter. That's great for Nyarlathotep, it's great for McGrath, it's great for Hastur, it's great for Yogg. If you mix the decks together, Yogg gets limit counters too. And Cthulhu J resonators you control gain plus 200, plus 200. That's just kind of like cherry on top. The Cthulhus are usually strong to begin with, but heck, what's another 200, 200? So pretty good. And it's just a one shot. There's no other effect. You get to put the limit counter only once, and it's not that when you put a new Cthulhu in the field, you get an extra limit counter. That's not how it works. Whoever's on the field with limit when this card comes out, those are the ones that get the counters. Nobody else afterwards. Last card in the deck is a good one. It is Empress of Rlyeh, and it is a 3-drop quick cast, so at any time. And target J resonator gains plus 1,000, minus 1,000 until end of turn. And this is pretty good. I like the fact that it's a fun card. Plus 1,000 attack on your own. If you have somebody that is getting damage through, such as a flyer, you can add 1,000 to it. Or if your opponent has a pretty nasty J resonator, you can target J rulers. You can blast them for minus 1,000 and potentially kill them. So it's a fun card. 3 is a reasonable cost. But if you have the stones open on your opponent's turn and you are expecting them, maybe they're going to judge and flip over, you can hit this out right away and potentially kill them. So it's a fun 2-way usage. So guys, that is it. Just a quick review of the Lunya starter deck. And I think it's strong. I really like this deck. It's good out of the gate as is, but as you could tell, there are definitely cards you could take out and switch with other cards in this set or past sets. And I will be doing it. I'll make a fun Lunya deck and post that as soon as I can. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe as usual. And I will be, excuse me, I'm losing my voice. I will be putting up more videos soon. So as always, thanks for a few minutes, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.